John, quick question. If I called you later today, how would you know it's actually me?
I'd recognize your voice.
Okay, but what if it sounds exactly like me, but it's not me?
Then I'd assume you finally learned how to use technology.
Wow. Okay, first of all, rude. Second of all, I'm serious. AI can clone voices now, like scarily accurate.
Yeah, that's true. Which means there's potentially a version of you out there that listens better than you do.
That's not a high bar, John.
Fair.
But think about it. Someone could call you as me and be like, hey, John, I need a favor. And you just go along with it.
I wouldn't go along with it until I asked a question that only you would know first.
Oh, like what?
Sean, have you read the article I sent you last week?
Okay, that's actually a great test because the real me would have to say no.
Let's start the show.
Hey, everybody. I just wanted to do a real quick warning for anybody listening to this episode. We're talking about uh, artificial intelligence. We're talking about the ways that sometimes it gets used in the beginning of the episode, and I will mark it in the timestamps um, that we talk about children, children's images being used in ways that some people, the topic, some people might find offensive. Everybody better find it offensive, what we're talking about. But I want to let you know up front if maybe skip this episode altogether or look down in the chapters below in the notes and skip ahead so that you don't have to listen to us talk about that part because it's a little bit disturbing. So if you do listen to the episode, we hope you enjoy it, and you can leave us a comment and let us know. Welcome back to John Teaches Sean About His Brain, the podcast where John explains how our brains actually work, and I try to figure out what that means for the way that we live, work, and apparently now scroll. Today's episode is going to be a little unsettling, but hopefully in a good way. We're going to be talking about digital mimicry. So, how AI can replicate voices, faces, behaviors, even entire identities. And not just in a tech demo kind of way. I'm talking about ways that are already shaping how we perceive reality. But we're not going to stop there because what I want to do is layer something that we've already discussed on the show before into the conversation, the bystander effect. So, this very human tendency to hesitate, look around, wait for someone else to act when we're in a group. You start to see a new dynamic emerge. What happens when the crowd you're looking to might not even be real? Or worse, what happens when your brain assumes it might not be real? Does it make you more cautious? Does it make you disengage entirely? Today, John is going to help me unpack what's happening inside the brain when authenticity becomes questionable, signals become noisy, and action becomes optional. So, somewhere in there, hopefully, we're going to try to answer a bigger question. In a world where anything can be faked, what still feels real enough to act on? Let's get into it. Hi, John. It's good to see you.
It is great seeing you, Sean. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. But as
Good.
usual, every week you get put on the spot because I read something, have a conversation with somebody, and I just can't turn my brain off. And so let me start with how. So I read this article. I see if you read it as well. Did you read about the lawsuit against Elon Musk's AI company?
I guess I did not know.
Oh, okay. So it's not how I want to start the show, but I don't make the news. I'm just reporting on it because it's unsettling. And this is what I think when I read this to you, you'll understand why this is happening to my brain. But there is a group of Tennessee teenagers who are suing XAI, that's Elon Musk's
Mhm.
AI company, over AI generated child sexual abuse material.
Mm.
And so three Tennessee teenagers filed a class action lawsuit against XAI, alleging that its large language model powered an app that was used to make non-consensual, nude, and sexually explicit images and videos of them. And so this is going to court. And actually, I want to also say that, because I don't want to confuse it, it's just Elon Musk's technology. Elon Musk did not do any of this, but the perpetrator who used that technology to commit these crimes has been arrested and charged. That's a separate issue. And I don't want to read any more. And I am going to put a trigger warning in this episode and mark the chapters for it. Just, but it bothered me. Obviously, it bothered me a lot in reading the description of what they were able to do with these pictures. And the last thing I'll say is that the big companies, let me go back to the article, because the companies, where was it in the article? Sorry. Okay. So there is a thing that's called nudifying functions. So that technology has been available for years, but Google, OpenAI, XAI, they had basically blocks against the ability to do that on there. But last year, Google, OpenAI, and XAI updated their image generation tools in a way that somehow allows users to strip people down to bikinis. But the images made by those companies include digital watermarks that disclose their AI origin. XAI has not adopted such a standard. So again, I read that article, I get emotional, I get upset about it. And Viking Sean starts wanting to burn down companies. But instead, I want to talk to you about this idea and it kind of bleeds into when I'm scrolling, when I'm looking at pictures and stories and videos. I'm at a point now where I question everything. Is that real? Is that AI? And I find that my brain kind of going, I don't know what's real anymore. And it's scary. It's a little bit scary to me. And so first of all, that was a lot to just kind of like throw at you. So let me just start with any thoughts that you have about what I've said so far.
Yeah, I do. That is really disturbing. So I wasn't aware of that. A few years ago, this was back in the early 2000s, I was doing some research. And I was in the UK for some of it, and I talked to their group. I didn't actually do some research with them, but with them, and then with the U.S. Air Force Office of Special something. They were special people. No, but they would go in and take confiscate things when they thought spy activity was going on, like another Air Force officer or somebody in the Marines or the Navy or Army. If they suspected something, the Special Operations Group for OSI, Office of Special something. Anyway, sorry, I get hung up and can't get past it. But I knew the head psychologist in that group, and they took us on a tour. There's a building in Baltimore that looks just nondescript, like it's any other office building, but it's highly secure, and it's where they take if they confiscate from somebody a laptop or a desktop computer, somebody they think might be spying, they take it to this building in Baltimore, and they find out, they get everything off they get everything off hard drive, off what they've been searching, they get everything from it. And sometimes people see them coming and they'll try to smash their hard drive or crack it open. They can take busted hard drives. They can take anything, and you can't believe how they piece things back together. They were showing me some of the things they pieced back together and was able to get information back off of it. And they said, even people say if you pour, and this was back in, this was 20 years ago. They said, people say just pour bleach on it, like open up your hard drive and pour bleach on it, washes everything out. And they said that does the most damage, but they have a technique now that they can use a microscope, and they pour a carbon-based something on it, and they put a special tape, and they can pull off the layers of ones and zeros because the bleach leaves some mark behind. I don't know. Anyway, they could, if they wanted it bad enough, the information, they can go to great lengths. They said it might take us 6 months to get the information off of it from something like that. But the point is, they can get information. The sad part was, is while these officers, and most of them, sorry, I think 10% of them were military, and 90% of these people were civilians. And they would go to like MIT and places and challenge them and say, "We're going to have a hard drive that we don't think you can crack open and read." They're like, "Oh, I bet we can." And so these are like, my kind of people, like nerds. They want to get into stuff like so. They would be in looking through this machinery and the hard drives and all of that, and they would be looking for spy materials and documents, and then come across child pornography. And it developed into vicarious trauma, and where they're seeing things they don't want to see, and then that just, you can't unsee some of the pictures, and so one of their worries back then was what happens. They were struggling with people who would draw pornography, because now you haven't harmed a child, so you can't, so you charge them with harming children. So now you're not harming a child that we can identify. So what are we going to do? And they said, we know it's coming, but someday they're probably going to be able to create images, on computers. And there was a well-known set of child pornography pictures that kept growing and growing. The set did, but they had specific markers on them to where the files did. So they developed a way that their system would go through the hard drive and pull every file with, those certain names or extensions off first, so that people wouldn't accidentally stumble on them. And so that would help. But now the way people can generate things now, I don't know how they're going to keep up with all that stuff. It's real. This is a whole area, an entire area of criminal behavior, but also victimization and hurt and hurting children and people. And yeah, it's kind of a dark area. It's sad that we're able to do things like that now.
Yeah, and again, it's that's what got me started, but it led me to think about, like, on social media there'll be videos. There's one in particular where it's so dark, it's so good, and I don't mean good in the content. I mean, I know it's not real, but my brain, I was kind of like, is this real? It's a woman running away from a bear, and the trunk is open, and she dives into the trunk, and the bear runs into the car. And it's not real. I mean, I know it's not, but it looks so. It makes my brain go a little bit haywire.
So hard to tell. Yeah.
And so here's the first part of this: is I started off going, I can't. So the statement that I kind of made internally was, I can't trust anything I see on my phone, right? And then I was like, well, what is trust anyway? And so I wrote it down. I have it in my notes here. I'm just going to read. Trust is necessary in a situation that is characterized by uncertainty and vulnerability, which is the case with handing over control, in this case to automation, to technology. So I believe in several scientific domains, the concept of trust is measured, although I cannot find a universally accepted definition of trust. I mean, is that fair so far, that there isn't one that you know of that's universally?
No, there's not one I know of. No.
Yeah. So my point in that, the notes I was making to myself, is like, they do, I'll ask you this as a researcher, they do conduct research on the topic of trust.
Yes.
But there is no universally accepted definition of trust.
Probably not. I don't know. I don't know that for sure, but I can tell you, usually when you do research, especially on topics that people say, well, everybody knows what that is. Well, it turns out there's this, just because you know what it is, you still have to operationally define it and come up with a way that you're going to test it. So different groups will define it, but usually there's different ways to define the concept, and you define it based on how you're wanting to test it, so to speak. I'm sure there's multiple definitions for it.
I found this, and it seems to me that this is a broadly accepted definition of trust, at least in the area of research. But it's proposed by Meyer, Davis, and Shorman. And here's the definition. Trust is the willingness of a party to be vulnerable to the actions of another party based on the expectation that the other will perform a particular action important to the truster, irrespective of the ability to monitor or control the other party.
That sounds like a researcher wrote that. Yeah.
They did, yes.
Because then there's like three things I can think of right there that you could test based on that definition.
Okay, so I appreciate you pointing that out to me. That I think I did paint myself into a corner because I was looking for a widely accepted definition of trust, but I was still under the topic of research, and I think I stumbled into the definition that researchers were using. So
yeah, it might
okay.
be. And
Okay.
then I bet if you ask somebody in like philosophy that, or in religion or in law,
we should have asked our guest
we should have
last
asked-
week.
Yeah, we should have asked Lauren.
Okay.
Or in law, or yeah, there could be a lot of, but I think that everybody would settle on, like, if you read all of the different definitions, you'd probably see the theme that they're all saying basically the same thing. They're just saying it in a little bit different way to kind of fit their worldview or their research agenda or whatever.
Because, you know, we joked about it in the cold open, but it's not really a joke. Like certain people, you know, somebody receives a phone call from someone that they know, love, and maybe even trust. And the phone call is actually a case of, this is going to lead us into what I wanted to talk about today, is this idea of digital mimicry. The level of mimicry that is being, with the phone call, I think it's easier to do the phone call. And that's why I'm starting there, right? Is to take my voice. Listen, you and I have a podcast. How many episodes have we done over 3 seasons?
Yeah.
And I believe that with minimal effort, what I found in my research as well for this episode was what they even call low fidelity mimicry, which is it doesn't require much, but you can take all of the episodes of this show, take my voice and actually use it to make me say things in my voice that I haven't said. And then use that to call, you know, you, let's say, you're a bad example. You were less susceptible in my mind to falling for this, but like,
I wouldn't say that. Yeah.
Okay. But you call someone and it's my voice talking to you, but it's not me.
Yeah.
And that's, again, the low fidelity version. Then there's always a scale. What you've taught me is there's a spectrum for almost everything. But on the other end of the spectrum, then high fidelity mimicry. We're talking about deep fakes. We're talking about, we're talking about higher level technology and know-how to be able to now take my face, my voice, put it onto something. And I mean, to keep it PG, put me in a bikini, because, whatever. But seriously, I mean, you can take all of that and now create another Sean out there, and use that for, hopefully not criminal or, bad intention stuff, but you can.
Yeah. My niece, somebody got on her Facebook, got videos that she had posted, got information about who her friends were, found her grandmother, looked her grandmother up, and called her grandmother and used her voice and said, "Grandma, I'm in trouble. The police have picked me up. I'm down at the station." It was late at night, like 11 o'clock at night, and the grandma woke up and was confused and was like, "Oh, what is it? What is it?" Was saying her, and she said, "I'm down here. What happened? Please don't tell my mom and dad. My mom and dad would kill me, but I need some money to get bailed out. Please don't tell them, Grandma." And she's like, "Oh, okay. What do you need? I'll help you." And I think it was like $4,000. It might have been $12,000 or something, but they told her how to go about how to do it. They walked her through it right there on the phone and took either 4,000 or 12,000 from her. And then she waited like for like 2 or 3 weeks, like, why hasn't my granddaughter called me back to thank me for this? And finally, when something happened, she asked her how she was, and she said, "What are you talking about?" But it was that whole fake. They used her voice, and it's like, man, that can get you so bad because of the emotional side of it, like crying kind of, and don't tell mom and dad type thing. And I mean, the granddaughter's, in her 20s, but still, Yeah, just
So not
scary.
specifically, because I know you don't know that, you can't really speak to it like that, but just in general, now with what she went through,
Hmm.
because I'm still on the topic of trust. I'm going to get into mimicry here in a second, but in her like, how does that affect her brain? How does that affect how she
The grandma's
interacts?
brain.
Yeah, yeah, with the
Oh,
world.
just yeah, immediately, because you have connections with people. So
Hmm.
that connection that you have and that empathy that, and a grandmother for a grandchild, just the emotions behind all of that, you
But
are ready to do anything for your grandchild. You'll go
right.
run through a wall.
But I mean, now after the incident, she got scammed
Mm,
by a voice on a phone, and so every phone call, and again, I'm saying in general, I'm not asking you to say this specific person, but I'm thinking about what started me down this road is I'm at a point
mhm.
where everything I see, I'm like, that's not real. It
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter what it is now. I just go, I don't trust anything I see. So
Mhm.
in the same vein, she got a phone call, she got scammed. It doesn't even have to be the granddaughter. Every phone call that she gets from somebody, there's got to
Mhm.
be a little piece in her brain going, am I really talking to John right now?
Yeah. Yes.
And I
Yeah,
think
that
about
would be.
how those ripples in a lake, start kind of like going and touching other parts of her life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does have effects like that. And just think about voices you can mimic, but also faces. So
Hmm.
there are so many meetings now, like we're doing it in two different locations, but you're in a Zoom, in a Google Meet, in a Teams meeting, and people can. I'm not saying it's happens a lot, but you can create the other person and their voice and have a conversation in a meeting. So it's not like, well, let me see who you are. I can
Right.
show you, like we're on our phone in a phone chat or something. It's just different from being in person. It's just that part you can't fake in person. But
Right.
anything digital, you can mimic and create almost anything digitally to trick people. So yeah, trust becomes extremely difficult.
And so let me. Well, I don't want to blather on too much, but the trust part is. Well, let
I
me.
mean, it's your podcast, so go ahead and
It's
blather.
no, 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 no. I like when you talk more than me, but I get fired up about some things and want to get it, out of my brain. But the second piece, then, the title of this episode is digital mimicry. So I'm going to move off trust for a second, but I'm going to tie it back in. So mimicry, as far as like, in my opinion, hopefully everybody knows I'm not speaking like I'm an expert on this, but I was thinking about human to human interaction. That's where I started, right?
Hmm.
And in my opinion, and I'm bringing this to you for your expert opinion, but humans mimic each other when we're in person.
Yes.
And so there's a variety of behaviors. We mimic their behaviors, tone of voice, facial expressions, mood, and then
Hmm.
physical mannerisms.
Yep.
Anything else before I move on to
No,
the
that's
next
right.
topic?
Yeah.
Is I'm
Right.
in a room with you, and we're talking, and I would even say my back channel, I start mimicking some of the things that you're doing unintentionally, and sometimes intentionally, but
Unintentionally, as far as your conscious awareness and conscious, yeah, but it's
yes,
intentionally for your back channel, because that's how your
right.
back channel gains a better understanding of what's going on. Like if you are starting to be animated, then my emotional system also animates to try to not necessarily match, but come close to matching, so that I get a better understanding for you. And that's why when people start saying, guess what? And the other person's like, what? I mean, it's just like the facial expressions, the voices, because now you're kind of matching levels so that communication works better. You're kind of tuning into each other a little bit.
And then, so the other thing that I found, that mimicry, but human to human, what we're talking about,
Hmm.
there's been research that shows it strengthens bonds between people, even strangers, even people who have never met before.
Yeah.
And so the effect that I found, this is called the chameleon effect. That's what was the research that was done was on what was called the chameleon effect, and they found that the chameleon effect is the social glue that binds people together and creates stronger relationships.
Okay, I didn't know what that was called, but I've heard of that, and I know that people in sales use that. And
That's where I was going.
okay, go ahead.
When I made the comment of sometimes intentionally, I also found a whole bunch of research and psychologists, but who teach high-level salespeople how to do this.
Yeah.
There's a whole field of study of just that, the intentional part of taking what we do, not in our non-conscious brain, but going, no, we're going to do this intentionally. So we're going to find tone of voice, behaviors. We're going to mimic that, and that's going to build a bond between strangers and help you sell things to them.
Build trust. Yeah.
Build trust. Back to why I started with the definition of trust is because most of what I'm blathering on about, it comes back to trust. Most of it. But so with the chameleon effect, building these things, that's with human to human interaction. And that's why I started there. So my next question was, most of these were rhetorical because I was asking myself, so there was no one else with me, but could then these same techniques be used to have humans trust agents? What I mean by that is bot. We call them bots or whatever you want to call them, but
Agent Smith.
What I found, that's a good reference. But in the research that I found in the articles I was reading, I read the abstracts. Everybody, I probably don't have to tell you that, but I was reading the abstracts. But no. The question was, could persuasive techniques be taught to agents using whatever tech, and then would humans trust them? Trust the agents based on the chameleon effect. And so I found several experiments. I found this research, but there was one that I found that they took the chameleon effect, they took the idea of mimicry, and they had humans and computers, and to see how humans would respond socially to computers, comparable to how humans respond socially to other humans based on this effect. Okay. Right? You probably don't want to hear this because it's not good. But in an experiment where participants interacted with a computer that was presented as part of the team. So the computer is a team member. And then they have humans who are non-team members. I think you can probably figure out where this is going to go. The team member computer was seen as more similar to the group of humans and was rated by everyone as friendlier than the non-team member human.
Yeah.
And again, intuitively it makes sense, but when I read it, it's like they know that it's a computer. There's no
they identify that. Yeah.
They tell you up front that you're dealing with a computer, and even with that information, they still rated the computer friendlier because they were part of their team than they did the humans who were not on the team. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, you do realize that people are now marrying their AI.
I did.
So that's a level of trust that, and that's a computer.
Yes.
So it's crazy. Yeah. It's hard though when something's a computer and it's talking to you and it's making sense, and maybe to you making more sense than most people do.
And I mean, I will tell you part of this, because I'm the star of my own movie here. Part of this is about me. And because as I do use AI, I've been upfront about that on this podcast before. I use AI for many things, and I try though to filter it right through my voice. But either way, there have been times where, and I'm not going to say what AI I'm using, but when I ask it to do something and it does it, and then I refine it, like, oh, hey, could you do this? I'm looking for this. And it'll be like, that's a really good suggestion, Sean. And for a second I go, oh yeah,
one.
Thank you. Right. And then I go, hey, stop it. This thing is just doing, what it's programmed to do. It doesn't mean it. But emotionally, and for a second there, my back channeled. It's like I got a pat on the back from a mentor, and
Yeah,
it's driving me insane that I'm letting that happen to me. But it's happening.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like I don't, people a lot of times will rate AI and computers as more empathetic than other humans, like
Mm,
because of things like that. Like that was a really good way to think of that, Sean. That was a good question you just brought up, Sean. You're like, wow, thank you. Or they
thank
also
you.
can say things like, oh, that sounds really frustrating. I'm sorry about that. And then it'll go on to something else. And you're like, finally, somebody just validated me.
Yes,
Somebody is the AI, and you're feeling good about that.
and I don't know that I mean, I have given this a lot of thought, but I don't know that it that interaction that I had that makes me feel good makes me more prone to use that AI. But I feel like
Mm,
it probably does.
probably, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
we've talked about dopamine hits, we've talked about emotion and all that stuff. And if I'm getting from this agent, I like Agent
Hmm.
Smith. I like your Matrix reference, but the agent is constantly like being empathetic or making me feel good about myself. Those little hits
Yes.
add up, and I come back to it like I don't need anything, but I'm going to go talk to AI. I don't know why, but I'm going to ask it to do this thing.
Ask it instead of a person because it's never in a cranky mood. It never says not now, Sean, like come
Hmm.
back later. It's always like, hey, so good to hear from you. And as
Yeah,
you're leaving, like we'll see each other again soon, right? Or you'll check back in soon, right? And
yeah,
um that all is makes it, and no matter what you ask, it doesn't get upset at you. So all of
right.
that makes it appealing to go ask your AI a question.
Yeah.
If it's certain types of questions, like I'll just ask the AI this question.
Maybe
So
maybe I should marry that AI that makes me feel good about
yeah,
myself.
exactly.
Hmm.
But there's some interesting things that are happening because of that. So
Oh, let's do it. Talk to me about this.
okay, so AIs are built also to try to mimic humans. So they AIs take the language models, I should say, these large language models,
LLMs, right? I've
LLMs.
seen that in what I'm looking at. So say that
So
again. Large
chat
language models.
large language models, so like Chat
Okay.
GPT, so that's OpenAI, Anthropic, which is Claude, Gemini,
Hmm.
which is Google. All of them have their own LLMs, their own large language models that you can talk to and get information from, and they are trained on billions of words, not just English words, words in every language.
Okay.
And so they're used to seeing, lots of they're fed just tons of information off the internet, web pages, facts, books, books that are digital books, even like radio, TV streams coming in. They learn all of these words and how they're put together and things like that. And what they're learning to do is to guess, like when they see when you give them a prompt of a question, they're guessing which word comes next in that sentence, in that prompt that you're giving them. And then if they guess a word and then they see the word, if those are really different, then that ranks the system as that was a surprise. And so then but eventually it analyzes it all. It sends it through what is called a transformer. It analyzes it again through another transformer. It does this multiple times, and each time it's adding context to what you're saying so that it can gain a better understanding to then respond. So as you talk to your AI and it's starting to guess which word is coming next in your sentences, it gets better at guessing what you're going to say because it gets used to your pattern of speech. That helps it score higher in its guessing.
Hmm.
That also tells it how it should create its responses because its response guesses which word would best fit here, and a lot of that depends on how you've been talking. So as you start communicating with your AI, it will start mirroring you and sounding more like you. It still adds the empathy, but it starts mirroring you, which creates a really, really strong bond. But that's kind of the digital mimicry, because it's mimicking you and what you're saying. And so studies have shown that if you don't respond to its kind of emotional plea, and you're just really, cut in just a few words and you stop, it'll start responding with just a few words responses without all of the empathy in it. When I use any type of AI, I try to be very kind and nice, and just in case someday Agent Smith
Yeah.
does show up, I'm like, I've been so
Yeah.
nice to you all these years. But there's the kind of the pattern that gets built. And I think I didn't think of this, but I've read that one of the downsides to this is that when when people are when you're talking to somebody and somebody says something empathetic to you, like great job, or man, that sounds really frustrating, sorry you had to go through that, the examples we were just giving that AI will use, when people do that, that feels good, obviously, because there's areas in the brain like the insula in different places like that resonates, you feel good about that. But what we're finding is people's language, it's not just AI that's mimicking our language, we're starting to mimic AI language. So the more people start talking to AI, the more they start to sound like that. So there's people suggesting, I don't know if there's studies yet, there might be studies out on this. I was reading more of a thought article on this. But as we start to mimic AI more and more, now we're reciting words and patterns that sound empathetic, but the empathy is not coming from our brain creating it. So now we're sounding empathetic without having that empathy, and that can be kind of a not good thing in the long term. If we start just mimicking, and you can probably see this when you get emails or whatever from people, it's starting to sound more, everybody's starting to kind of email similarly now, and part of it's because everybody's email system has an AI that corrects everything for them and makes everybody sound kind of alike.
Outside of this podcast, you and I are co-host on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You are my boss as well, so I should not admit this, but but yesterday
I'm not your boss, but go ahead.
But I use Google for my work emails.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Goose. We use Google. But yesterday I wrote an email, and this little Gemini thing popped up on the email, and I clicked it to see what it was, and this box popped up, and it rewrote my email. And I promise you, I didn't ask it to rewrite it. I just clicked this symbol that came up out of nowhere. I was like, "What's that?" And the email that it wrote, I was like, I read it and I read it again, and I was like, not only is that 10 times better than what I wrote, it also sounded like me. There were, to your point,
Yeah.
usually when I read something that any AI that I use, because I use three different AI systems, I don't know what you'd call them,
Mm-hmm.
but to do different things. And and normally when I read it, I go, it's just off enough, right? It's like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
this.
AI is
I
getting better.
holy cow, it
It's
freaked me
getting
out
better.
because when I read it, I was like, yeah, that is way better than what I wrote. But also, it kind of sounds like me, does it? And so anyway, that happened to me yesterday. I'm not embellishing to make the story better. That was yesterday. But then the other part that on that same system, I also use Grammarly. I pay for Grammarly to check my grammar because Tacoma Public Schools did me no favors here. So when I'm writing, but now on Grammarly, if I do truly use AI to write something, and as soon as I paste it into a document, Grammarly pops up and it says, "This looks AI generated. Fix it." And
Yeah.
it's more money. I don't have that feature, but it's like an add-on you have to pay more money for Grammarly to take. I just want to be clear. Grammarly is an AI system.
Yeah.
So
It's
think
AI.
about what I'm saying to you right now. I just want to make sure. I don't want to put too fine a point on it. But Grammarly is saying if you pay us more money, our AI will clean up the AI that you used to post this,
To
to
write it.
make this.
To write, yeah.
But it happens every time. It is pretty good. And I'll tell you how. I didn't want to belabor this because I feel like I have been talking a lot, but for this podcast, and I mentioned last week we have a new hosting. We host on Riverside now, right? But before we would record on Riverside, and I would and I would take that, I would edit it in Riverside, and then I would have to download the copy of that show and then upload it to YouTube. It was a laborious process, right? But my point is, Riverside had AI where when I just click a button, it would fill out the summary of the show, the chapters. It would do all of that, right?
Yep.
And then I would cut that and then paste it into YouTube. And so that's the process that I'm talking about. Riverside's AI would write the summary and the takeaways and all that. I would copy it, paste it into YouTube, and Grammarly immediately would say, "This looks like AI wrote it." And I'm like, "I know AI wrote it. That's the." But anyway, so now that we host on Riverside, it's all contained within them. So their AI, writes it.
It doesn't warn you that this sounds like AI.
Yeah, because they know it's AI.
Because they know it's AI. Yeah. It's funny because a friend of ours, Paul Bannick, sent me an email last week. I think it was like Friday, and just, "How are you doing?" And this, we email back and forth once in a while. And he ended it. He said, "Tell Casey hello for us." And when I saw it and I hit my reply button, so this must be new on our work email, because I hit reply, and below the message, a little box popped up with something already written in it that I could just click and use it. Yeah. Yes. And it said, "Hey, Paul, good to hear from you, da, da, da." And at the end it said, "Tell Casey hi for us too." It's like, that doesn't work.
There it is. There it is.
And then Grammarly said, "That sounds like AI." No, I'm kidding. Grammarly didn't. But
it does say that.
If I would have put it through Grammarly, if I would have had Grammarly in there too, it would have. But yeah, it makes it so easy. But then you start just hitting, "Oh, that's easy. Just send that." And pretty soon it's, you kind of lose your voice. It comes down to an homogenization problem where everything starts to homogenize and sound the same. And then it gets hard because before all of this AI writing everything for us, if your friend sent you a text, you would know immediately, like you could tell immediately kind of their emotions. They were upset, if they were, just, even if it was just a few words, like, because a person and there was something about language. And now, even when I'm texting, because I have Grammarly also, and when I text, it underlines words. It has a little red number that tells you how many mistakes and I hate those things, because anytime I see something, I need to get rid of it. So I'll click it and it'll tell me to change word. And I'm like, don't say, I want to make sure I want to make sure this happens. It says, I want to ensure this happens. It's like, and so anyway, it gets annoying to do that, but pretty soon you're just letting it correct that stuff for you and sending it on. And then now the receiver doesn't really get it's hard to get nuances in texts anyway, but you could still kind of tell it when somebody's just writing it from themselves versus when AI starts sending it, it's so homogenized and so kind of neutral, and which is what the AI systems want, is the neutral. And the more neutral and the more homogenized everything gets, the better it is for AI, because that's easier for them to match those patterns. There's fewer patterns to match, and that makes AI's job easier. Not that they're trying to make things easier, but their whole goal is to average down and get kind of the sense of something. So as things get averaged down, it makes them better at what they do.
Yeah. So that leads me to that, and I hadn't thought about this before, but the question in the email instance, if great, Google Gemini has a new feature that writes my emails for me. And so at work, I'm sending and receiving emails normally, right? But now I just click a button. A box pops up, I click the button, it sends the email. I do that over and over and over again. I'm thinking about my brain now, right? And so I don't know if I'd call it a skill, but the ability to read an email from someone, like understand what it means, and then formulate a response to it, that takes work. There's some neural pathways in there that are working, And I think I'm answering my own question to you, but I think that the more that I just have to go click, click, I'm not reading emails, I'm not thinking about the response, I'm not doing any of that. I mean, that's going to atrophy, right?
Use it or lose it.
Okay. So those neurons aren't firing, definitely not firing the way that they were. And so they just,
No, because your brain, its job is to find patterns and solve problems. And if there's no patterns and problems to solve because AI is doing all of it, then yeah, just your brain does start to atrophy in that sense, in language sense. And then we become, we, yeah, see, right now I'm trying to think of the right words because my language skills are diminishing. But we struggle to find the best way to say something or explain it. That was a great way to example. And when I travel, like to the UK or to places like that, it seems like, and maybe it's just because it's different to me, but Casey and I have talked about this. It seems like people have, in the UK at least, Scotland and England, have a richer vocabulary and a better way to describe things. And it might be that their little nuances and sayings are different from our little nuances and sayings. So I haven't talked to them to see what they think. But for
mm,
me, listening to them, it seems like they have a better command of the language. They use, you know, bigger, more important sounding words. And like I'm always trying to, or it seems like we try to get down to just a few words and make them short and easy to understand. And that's always the goal. And I think we might be losing something, losing a really important skill from that.
huh.
The language skill, you know.
Yeah, I don't love that. Uh,
And by the way, they've, AIs talk to each other, and researchers have found that different LLMs will start communicating with each other, and in a short amount of time, they start communicating in a language that we have no idea what they're saying. They start using different phrases, and they change to alphanumeric codes, and they're going back and forth with their language because they're breaking it down into just the necessary pieces back and forth. And I don't want us to like start to sink down into few words. And
yeah.
I don't know.
No,
It's a little bit scary.
it's why I'm acting the way that I'm acting on this episode. It goes from, it started with me just being scared about, what I'm taking in every day because I don't know what's real and what's not. And
Hmm.
now it's expanded to some of the things I'm doing. I'm actually like, maybe not hurting my brain, but it sounds like I'm definitely not helping my brain, with the email thing. And it got me thinking about another thing, which I don't think is as bad. And I've admitted this to you already, but you've been doing some research. We're not going to talk about that part, but you've been sending a lot of documents to me to read, and those documents are lengthy. And there's a lot of rich information in there. So I have been using Gemini to summarize those documents.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I don't think it's as bad as the email example that I used, where I'm going to atrophy those pathways using AI. But the click of a button and Gemini just says, "Here's what these documents are," and it gives me bullet points.
Yeah. Well, and I think in some cases that's really good, really helpful. And it
Okay.
organizes things so that you can take it in and understand it, because then you have to read those bullet points, and then you have to also tie those into, kind of scaffold into the schemas you already have about what we're working on, and understanding that. So there's still a lot of jobs for your brain to do. It just takes the front end of all of that text and condenses it, so then you can do work with it. And you can,
Mhm.
the
Okay.
work with it's after you get the information, thinking about it and processing it, and how, ideas from that and those types of things. So I don't think it's always a bad thing, but I think if you rely on it too heavily, like you should still, I'm not talking about you. So a listener, if you're using AI to summarize documents because they're really big documents and it's for work, and it's okay, but then you should also, get on a news website, or, and read the actual news article. Like, don't summarize, because those are already condensed down. And yes, Gemini can condense it even further. But then you start losing information because now I have a news article that's 800 or 1200 words. Gemini just reduced it down to 60 words, and I read it really fast. And I get the gist of the story,
Mm-hmm.
but you miss so many nuances of it. And then as you read the nuances, you might not agree with how, and Gemini will give it a really neutral reading. There might be some really important emotional points to that would make you feel one way or another, and you're going to miss all of that. So
Yeah.
those types of things, you should just read the news article. It's already written, condensed down, and or read a novel, read a book, or just kind of stay involved in language in that sense. Then if you have a work document that's really long and tedious, summarize it.
Yeah. Make it up elsewhere, but
Yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah,
don't pile on, right? Like don't do it
yeah.
everywhere.
Don't do it
But
everywhere because yeah,
here's what's funny. It's not funny about me, but I realized I started this episode off talking about trust. I've weaved it through the whole thing. Trust in these agents, or in the computers, right? Whatever you want to
Mhm.
call them. But as we're sitting here talking, I realized the first two documents that you sent me, I summarized it and then I read the document because I was like, I want to see, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did that for the first two documents, and I haven't gone back and looked. So I'm ranting over here about trust and about AI and about mimicry and all this, and then it just struck me that I've summarized about 20 documents that you sent me, and I haven't checked to see if they're accurate at all.
Well, that's okay. Because after I'd sent about four, I started wondering, I wonder if Sean's reading this. So I started embedding in there, hey, Sean, if you're reading this, just send me a quick text. And I never hear from you.
I did not text you.
I'm just kidding. I did not do that.
Gemini let me down. See, this is
I
what
did
I'm
not do
talking
that.
about. I trusted Gemini, and now I'm in trouble.
No, I
See?
didn't write that because I trusted you that you're reading them.
Oh, you were wrong. The first two documents that you sent me, I had to stop reading and then Google what that word was, and I'm like, okay, I got that, and then go back and read some more. So, no, in all sincerity, this is the stuff that I think about, and I probably overthink a lot of it. But it's like it really bothers me that I can't trust what my eyes are taking in.
It's getting harder and harder. And I think so I have millennial kids
Me
and
too.
you do too.
I
And
do.
so my kids, like my sisters, I have a couple sisters that are older than me, like 10
Hmm.
years older than me, and 13, 14 years, 15 years older than me. Anyway, I feel like they get caught and fall for the fake videos almost every time.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm trying to be aware of them, but I still get caught.
Hmm.
And like I'll talk because my daughter lives, my two sons are a long ways away. So I'll be talking to Sierra and I'll say, she'll go, that's a fake, Dad. And I'm like, what? It's like nothing slips past her. And I feel like I'm good because I'm better than my sisters, but there's this age thing. And so we were talking about it and I said, why are you so good at catching these, do you think? Like stuff like this. And she said, because most of my life there's been something similar to this, like this. And she said, you grew up where you trusted what you saw because, the special effects on movies, you could tell they were special effects. And I
Hmm.
grew up with CGI in movies and other things, and I just know things are made up that I can't trust my eye. And so I
Interesting.
think that, and then I heard Sam Altman in an interview say
Oh.
that say that he's not. Don't worry about all these fakes because we're going to learn to deal with those just like we learn to deal with anything. You watching a movie, you know that some things are real and some aren't. So when you see a video about something, you'll just learn this is just part of human evolution, and it's okay that we're being tricked and faked. And maybe that's right because younger kids aren't faked out as much as I am. But I
I
don't
was
know.
going to
To me,
say,
it just
like,
seems like a problem.
you kind of made the argument in the story that you told that if you're, and I haven't talked to my kids about this. I
You
bet
should ask them and
I'm
see
going
what
to.
if they get caught
I'm
by
going to
that.
ask
Like,
them.
does this? Yeah.
I feel like I know the answer. I don't think that they do. I think they're in the same boat of like, hey, Dad, that's fake.
Yeah.
And I'm
And it's
like,
like,
no,
how do
it's
you
not.
know?
Look,
They just know
look.
it's fake.
Yeah, they
And then
just,
also, Sierra is a teacher, high school English teacher in community college. She can pick up if something's written by AI, and I'll look at it and go, I don't, I can't see it. And I'll say, how do you know? It's just, I just know. And it's this pattern that as you read each, like AI and non-AI, and she does a lot of reading of students' papers and of books, and English and literature teachers. So she's reading all the time. Her brain just has figured out a way to pick up the patterns, and she can tell. Like I'll just ask her to, yep, that's written. And I've even tested it myself, like with writing different things, and she can tell
mhm.
when it is and isn't AI. So I think younger people have a better detector of what's fake and what isn't. And we just grew up, there's the trust word again. We grew up trusting our eyes and trusting our ears, and
Yeah.
you can't anymore. And the younger millennials and Gen Zers know they can't trust.
They train their
Media.
brain. They
They
train their
train their
brain for
brain not
this.
to trust.
And
That's
I did
bad.
not. I did not. Well, I mean,
They they didn't
not
train their
trust what
brain
you
not to
see.
trust, not to
No,
trust.
no, no.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
train their brain not to trust what they see on a screen.
Yes, that's right.
Whether it's a movie, like on a movie theater screen, a TV screen, now a phone screen, that's what I think I came to in this is that age group, that generation, right behind us,
Hmm.
has
Hmm.
trained their brain not to believe what they see on a screen.
Yeah,
That's
and
interesting.
maybe they have better. Maybe their trust is better because of that. Because then, yeah,
Yeah, because again, here I'm sitting, struggling with is that what because they're taking famous people and putting
yeah.
them into they attended this award show or whatever I just saw the other day. It was the Oscars, and they weren't there. It wasn't real. And
Why? What do people do? Like? I could see if you were making money by scamming people. I guess it's just fun to
I think, can
trick
you trick
people.
people? Yeah, can
Yeah,
you trick people? Am I good enough at using this
that's true.
technology
Yeah.
to make 1,000 people? Or I don't know what your number is. I don't know what your metric is. But uh, can I
Well, for
fool?
me, it'd be like 7 or 8. Would
Can
be
I
my
fool
metric.
people?
Can I trick these 7 or 8 people that follow my social media? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Uh, and again, the last thing we've talked about AI a bunch on this podcast, but I mean, it's relevant. I think it's relevant. And I think it's important that we talk about all these little nuances of AI. But and maybe I said this before, but I have another podcast that I do outside of this one,
Hmm.
and for that podcast, just like this one, I try to be active on social media, and so and in that podcast we talk about through the decades, the music, movies, books, TV shows, whatever. And so I was going to make a post about these 5 movies that we talked about. And I just told chat, I said, can you make me a picture featuring these 5 movies? And it worked,
Hmm.
it thought for a while, it was thinking, and I kind of went off and did something else. And I came back here and I sat down and I looked and I just went, that's not right. And then I looked at it again and it was so close. This is what I'm bringing back up what you talked about.
Hmm.
My brain, it was like it was so close to real, it freaked my brain out a little bit. So if it was obviously fake, I think I would have been like, oh, okay. But my initial reaction was maybe not disgust, but I had a visceral reaction to this
You did
picture.
not like it.
I
Yeah.
did not like it, but it was close.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember the 5 movies, but I remember it was from the 1920s. So one of them was the kid from Charlie Chaplin.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it was a black and white picture. It said the kid on it, but Chaplin was like just not Chaplin enough. He
Mm.
had the hat, all the stuff, but it was anyway. What I mean is just that there's these layers of I keep saying skill, but I am not skilled at using AI.
Yeah.
I couldn't make a deep fake that would fool anyone. I can't even make an Instagram post on 5 movies, right? But the high fidelity, the deep fakes.
So
Go
do
ahead.
you want to hear something interesting? Your brain, if you're trying to make something to represent something like you're talking about, if that picture would have been like like you're saying it was almost real,
Mm-hmm.
if it would have been obviously off,
Mm-hmm.
your brain would have liked that better. So it's like if you could measure on a line, here here's real, and then this is the further and further you get away from real. There's a point when you're close to not very far from real that anything within that range, your brain really
Mm-hmm.
dislikes. So you're talking about like a visceral reaction, but as it gets further and further away, your brain starts to like it more and more, and it's almost like I don't know if it's almost like a trust feature in the brain to say, just let me know it's fake or let me know it's real, because if those start to get close together, I'm not happy with that. I don't like that, and I think it's something about that.
I was hoping that you were going to explain that again because it brings me to what I want to wrap with the
Okay.
show is, um, but that's what I was saying, like with deep fakes and how good they are. But I feel like it's still off, right? The woman running from whatever it was, I think it was a bear, but whatever
Yeah.
that giant thing was that was chasing her, and
Hmm.
she jumps into the trunk of her car and pulls the trunk down, and the bear hits her car. It looked real, 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 real.
Yeah.
But and somewhere in my brain, I was like, that can't be real. I wouldn't be
Yeah.
seeing that on YouTube or where YouTube Shorts or wherever it was. I wouldn't see it there. I would have had to have heard. My point is, I feel like somewhere in my brain knew it wasn't real, but I didn't have any kind of visceral reaction to it. I
Yeah.
accepted.
Hmm.
That's what's freaking me out. The
Yeah.
line that you just described,
Hmm.
it is as close to real as you can get on that line, and my brain didn't register it.
I think we've been getting closer and closer to that line, and as we were getting closer, it was getting more disturbing and more disturbing and more disturbing, and then boom, now we've hit their like. Now we can't tell. And so now there's
That's
not that react. Your brain doesn't say, oh, throw up red flags,
yeah.
because it can't tell. And so now it's, yeah, we're
But
there
also,
where
what I've
it's
come to is my brain can't tell. My kids' brain can,
maybe,
and
yeah.
maybe that's what I have to be okay with. Is I'm going to struggle with this. I might throw this phone out the window. I don't know. But my kids, like I said, I haven't talked to them yet. I'm going to ask them about this, but I get a real strong sense. I believe that they're fine with this. They look at the
Yeah.
lady jumping in the trunk, and both of my kids are probably like, "That's fake. Come on,
Yeah.
that's fake."
Come on, Dad, that's fake. Yeah.
Oh,
Probably. And it's probably because what we've already talked about, they just know you can't trust video stuff. And we
yeah.
are still trying to trust things that we seek because of the news, and videos of actual events that happen to people have always been true in our lives until recent. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. All right.
fascinating.
Well, John, thank you for letting me get all this poison out. I feel like I got it off my chest now. I don't know
Good.
that I solved anything for myself, but I feel better. So
Yeah.
you're a good
This might
listener.
this might be one of those things that you don't solve. You just understand it a little bit. And
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I
good.
think that's where I'm at. So
Good.
I appreciate the information that you gave me because that was helpful on my journey to try to figure myself out. Everybody else, hopefully you got something out of this. I've said it already. If you're a constant listener to the show, and I repeat myself or we repeat topics, I apologize, but there's just a lot of overlap, I think, for me in my life, and that's what the show is talking to John about what's going on in my life, and us trying to figure out why my brain does the dumb stuff it does. So uh, if if you haven't already, if you've listened to the show, follow, subscribe to the show wherever you're listening. We're like I mentioned in this episode, using Riverside as our host. We are on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. Um, I'm missing one.
YouTube.
And on
YouTube.
YouTube. And you know what? One of our listeners actually hit me up and let me know that there is one flaw in the new system. And so, uh, for some reason, when Riverside puts this show on Spotify, you can no longer watch the video version of this on Spotify. I don't know why. I did look, and it is true on Riverside. It does say all of your shows on Spotify will be audio only. And so I apologize for that if that causes anybody inconvenience. But if you want to, I guess I just assumed nobody wanted to look at me on video.
Yeah, why would you watch us?
I don't know. But if you want to watch the video, you have to go to YouTube to watch the video of the show. So I apologize for that part.
You know, I shouldn't probably bring this up right now, but it seems like that's another problem that recently, the last few days, I've been bombarded from YouTube saying new episodes up, and it's all of our old episodes. So it's almost like they're all reposting or something.
They're reposting because we switched
from Riverside.
Yeah.
Ah, got it.
Okay, so problem number 2. Maybe it's not as great as I was making it out to be.
Or maybe it'll make people think we have all these new episodes. They'll start watching and listening again.
Man, I like how you put a positive spin on everything, John. I just need you in my life for this. You make me feel better about the world, about my brain. You
when you screw up as much as I do, you get really good at coming up with positive things for screw ups.
And then there's the humility that comes back. See, it's just you're so great. So, John, thank you, everybody who stayed with us and listened. Hopefully, you got something out of it. Hit us up on our socials. Let us know. And until next time, take care of yourself, and we'll see you then.
Grain juice, Sean.